Hi everyone. We should have a presentation about Nostr with Dominik, but Carla and Volker did amazing job yesterday with their own presentation about Nostr. So instead, I have here probably one of the best developers on Nostr right there. And we will talk about Nostr. We will talk about some basic things for you, how to get on board, and so you understand the structure of Nostr protocol. And then we will do Q&A, ask me anything style of questions. So you can ask the brightest minds on Nostr about Nostr. But I will start with Will. If you can explain us maybe the difference between Twitter and Nostr and why you decided to be active on Nostr rather than Twitter.
Sure. I actually have one question first for everyone else. How many people have heard of Nostr here?
Nice.
Right. How many people are on Nostr and using Nostr? Okay, cool. What makes Nostr different than Twitter? Like, why would you care about Nostr if you're happy on Twitter? Like, what would motivate you to use it? I think the biggest thing is it's not controlled by a single corporate entity that has a trust and safety team that can deplatform you at any point in time. It's a true open protocol that we're building, very similar to Bitcoin in that sense. We're just trying to do it right. We're trying to build a social network that not one single entity can control. I think that's the most important aspect of it. So when you join it and you build a following, it's a following that you own. It's like you truly control that versus being at the whim of some company who decides that if they don't want you there, they can remove you. So.
Yeah, nice. I think a big part of how you own the protocol, own your own data, is the private and public key that you set up when you start. So Dominik, can you explain how the private public key works?
Yeah, at the beginning, when you join the Nostr space, you need first private key to sign your events. The events are like basic data structure in a Nostr. And when you have the private key, you can do the signature on the event that others can verify that nothing in that event was changed. That's a basic thing. You are probably similar. It's really similar to Bitcoin. When you have private key, you sign in the transaction. On a Nostr, you sign in the events.
Yeah. So your private key and public key is basically your account. But you also need to be connected to some relays to really use Nostr. So Will, can you explain what relay is?
Yeah, it's interesting. Just so thinking about that model where you're signing this data locally, and so it's just a small piece of data. It usually includes either your contact list or like a message, like a tweet you're sending. But these have to be stored somewhere. So the way that most clients work is you connect to multiple relays. So the Twitter model is you connect to a single relay, which is their server, and if they don't like your note, they can remove it. So we need a way to get around that. So instead of just one server, we connect to N servers, so 5 of them, all controlled by different people. So you sign your message, broadcast it. So in some sense, it's still your data. Your data is just getting backed up in multiple locations. And just because they're hosting it, it's not their data. You have complete control over it because you can always broadcast to other relays. And that's what gives it this strength of the network, is that you are always in control of the data.
Yeah, there is no one server that can censor you or that can be shut down. There is multiple servers with your data on it. Great. I think one big thing that we have to explain to non-Nostr users is the difference between the protocol and the clients themselves. Because with Facebook, you have Facebook, with Twitter, you have Twitter, and it's the protocol and the client together. So how are you basically explaining to your friends the difference there? Will, you can maybe start, Dominik, you can add.
Yeah, so I always like to use the analogy of email because it feels like that's the one thing that you can kind of relate, that people are used to using every day. So with email, so the underlying protocol is it's called email, and there's the clients are called Gmail, Outlook. There's different ways of interacting with that underlying thing which is all these different clients are speaking. So the biggest difference between email and let's say Nostr is that even with email, it's typically that one server is holding all of your mail. So if you get kicked off of Gmail, all of that data is still they control it. They own it. You don't have signatures on your email typically, and there's no way for you to easily like replicate your email to different servers. So I think that's the kind of the biggest difference. It's similar to a protocol like email, except now it's like you are in control of your messages.
Yeah, email is a really cool analogy because there is no like email.com client that you will use. You have to use Gmail or something else. And with Nostr it's the same. There is no like Nostr application. You use different clients. Maybe Dominik, you can explain how you as a user can hop between different clients and still own all the data and transform basically all the data between clients, because that's also something different from the traditional social media space.
Yeah, usually when you sign into the client, he pulls up data from the relays and check if what is your relays. It's also based on the clients. Some clients check just one relay. Some clients are listening to your account and connecting to other relays for your data. And that's basically it. Some clients, for example, the one of the clients that do the long posts, connecting to just one big relay that other don't use. And there's difference between other relays, but that's very technological. But basically, when you connect to a client, it downloads from the Nostr relays what are your relays, and when it downloads it, it pulls out your data.
Yeah, so basically you can log into different clients, but you have all your followers, all your posts everywhere, which is super cool. Would you add something?
Yeah, I mean, one thing that is not really talked about, or maybe not super clear about, it's always, so Nostr is always described as like, the Twitter replacement and whatnot, but the actual data that you sign on the client can be of any form. So imagine you wanted to broadcast, let's say, like you're selling something, similar to Craigslist. I want to sell something that's like, I don't want anymore. You could actually broadcast a note that says like, hey, I'm selling this thing. And it can exist on the same relays that are hosting your tweets, that are hosting your images, maybe like an Instagram style story. There's all these different types of data that exist on the relay. So when we say it's like, hey, it's like a decentralized social media protocol, in reality, it's like a decentralized data protocol where you own the data, and there's many different types of applications that can run on top of this system. And even better than that is that all these different applications, like the Instagram application, the Craigslist application, the Twitter application, they can all actually interact and interop with each other. So now you can like zap your Craigslist post or like repost your Instagram story, and it all can work in all the different applications. So I think that's one of the things that's like not appreciated about this protocol that can actually makes it really interesting.
Yeah, you also see like lots of Nostriches usually use like 5 clients at one time.
Yeah, which is amazing, and there will be much more different apps for different types of things to be built on Nostr. But back to the beginning of Nostr, both of you have quite an interesting story how you got into the Nostr ecosystem, and I would like to hear it, and it's also in the different time of like Nostr lifetime. So Will, you were first, so you should probably start. How was the Nostr when you joined, and why you joined?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I've always been kind of like a weird like computer kid who just like liked obscure protocols. One of the first ones I was into was a weird program called Bitcoin in like 2010. I like downloaded the client, was playing with it. So I was like, this is genius. The fact you can create just like money out of like just using software code was just mind blowing to me. So I'm like, wow. So that really, I was like, wow, protocols can have a huge impact on the world, like this computer code. So that in some sense made me more interested in protocols over time. So once I saw this one from Fiat Jaff, because I knew Fiat Jaff because he was working on Ellen Neural and a bunch of other Lightning stuff, and I was working on Lightning at the time. I was working on Core Lightning. So I'm like, hey, this was like a weekend project. Let's play with this thing. And it just my first impression of it was that it is so elegant. It's the most elegant protocol I've ever seen. It's much simpler than Bitcoin. It's much simpler than most internet protocols. If you read like the spec on email, it's like it would take a month to even just get through it. But you can spend an evening and just read Nostr and get it in an afternoon. So that's what the impression that had on me was huge. And so I just built a client in like a weekend, and here we are, I guess.
Yeah, and it's the most popular client on Nostr, so I think it's a huge success. Dominik, we have quite a different story.
Yeah, we have a quite different story. We learned the hard way. We previously had the client on a Twitter called Tweetoshi. At the end of the last year, unfortunately, Elon joined, And that happened, and after that we realized that the Twitter is no longer sustainable for us, and we have been looking for other like protocols out there. For example, also like Mastodon and other like decentralized protocols. And Nostr was a thing that at the time, and we realized that this solves so many things that we, for example, mark as a hard on a Mastodon. That's are for us no-go. So we decided to move from the Twitter to the Nostr. And yeah, I love it more than the Elon weird social media.
Yeah.
I think what's like that it's so cool about this is that they didn't have to ask permission to get on Nostr. It's like they didn't have to go to the Nostr CEO and like, hey, can we program on your platform? It's like, no, you can just run your own relay, you can build your own client, and no one can say that you can't do that. And that is the beautiful thing about this protocol, because it represents, it's like, it's freedom. It's free speech in cyberspace, and running a relay as like your free speech node in cyberspace. And this is why we're here. Like, this is why we're here. This is why we're in Prague. This is why we go into Bitcoin conferences, because we're tired of people saying you can or can't do this, or this API is restricted. They're like, no, this shouldn't be the world we live in. Let's, anyway.
Yeah, the joke that the Nostr CEO bans you is usually the thing on a Nostr.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, it's amazing to be building on Nostr, where you can just build whatever you want, and if you are missing something on the protocol, you can just add a nib to improve the protocol and add the stuff to it.
Yeah, when I joined, there was no likes, there was like no repos. I think mainly because Fiat Jaff is like likes are dumb. I'm not gonna add likes. I'm like, well, I like likes, so people like to like things. So I just spent an afternoon, wrote up a little spec on how to do it, just created a new kind. And it was easy, and that's, anyone can extend the protocol. If you have some new idea, some new use case, you can just go in, write a markdown document, and boom, and start using it. There's no global consensus like in Bitcoin. With Bitcoin, if we want to change something, we have to get everyone to agree, and it's a very serious thing because people can lose money. But Nostr is like way more fun because you can just add stuff, and you don't have to, and no one's gonna lose money or get upset at you because like, who cares? Just add a new data type. Right?
And also the speed of the Nostr is really fast. I never seen something like that before. Usually when you like leave Nostr for a week, it's different Nostr after a week.
Yeah, and that's thanks to the free market, free competition on Nostr, because there are so many clients, so many developers that are pushing together to like get the Nostr better. So
yeah,
that's great.
like, and we're friendly up on stage, but like when we get back to coding, like we're butting heads, like because Pubser is much better than Damus in terms of performance and stuff. So I'm like, damn, I got to get better. And this is like this free market pressure of competition that these clients are now seeing on the network, and that's why it's moving so quickly right now, is because we're all competing to make the best client, get the most users. So it's fun. This is how it should be.
We have more features, by the way, but we will get there.
Yeah, they'll get there, I think.
Yeah, demos is very cool, but at the end of the day, the main goal for all of us is to get as many people on Nostr as possible, and I think that's our main goal together. But one of the main features on Nostr are zaps, and not that many people might not know about zaps. So what zaps mean to you, Dominik, and then what zaps mean to Will?
Yeah, I'm surprised that Will is not taking that question, but yeah, I can take it. That's usually the clients implementing the zaps. That's a feature that allows you to monetize the content or give a value to somebody for their post. Usually on a client, it's shown as a small bold, and it generates invoice from the LN address, and you can pay it, and they are given the value for their posts. So that's a simpler if you want to like join it.
Yeah, so when I first joined Nostr, there was no zaps, right? And so it needed to be created. I'm like, it just seemed like an obvious thing. When I think at the time I was thinking about Stacker News and like how awesome it is to upvote and actually send value to someone for contributing something interesting. And I was thinking, well, we definitely need this on a Twitter-like client, because if people are posting good content, like how do you reward people for that? And how do you build this new ecosystem, a value for value ecosystem on a Twitter-like client? So I was like, okay, I need to do this. So I thought about it for like a year, and I didn't think it was possible, but I came up with an elegant solution. And because of the flexibility and extensibility of Nostr, I could just create a new note type on Nostr that was called a zap. It was kind 97345, which is was the port that the Lightning Network uses. So, and all it is just it's a record that a Lightning transaction happened, and there's a proof that ties the Lightning node that received that payment, and it's tied to that node. So it's actually a pretty strong guarantee that the zap you see on the Nostr network actually was a Lightning payment, and then clients can verify that. And once we have that, you could sum them up on post. You can see everyone zapping, and it was great. And this is, again, just a testament to how flexible and amazing Nostr is, that you could build something like zaps. But it didn't need to be Bitcoin, right? Anyone could do like on-chain Bitcoin zaps or Ethereum zaps. I don't know why you'd want to do that, but
they are definitely coming.
Yeah, there is also the thing that happened yesterday, for example. It's called Zapathon, and usually at 1 hour at the night, in our time it's a night, but at the US it's not. You zap everything you see on the Nostr. So at that time, usually wallet of Satoshi is down and other big wallets. So that's really fun on the Nostr.
Yeah, we stress test the Lightning nodes and custodial nodes, because Zapathons are so much fun. If you've not experienced it, I think it's Thursday at 3 or 5 p.m. Western. I don't know what it is here, but
11.
Join the network at that time and just post something with hashtag Zapathon, and people will send you sats. It's tons of fun.
Yeah, exactly. By the way, we should be streaming this session to Nostr Nests, which is super cool. And maybe we can talk just a few sentences about Nostr Nests as well, and then we can take questions from the audience.
Sure, yeah. Nostr Nest is kind of our version of Spaces. It's not built into the clients yet, but it's a website you can go to, and it's hooked into your identities on Nostr, so it's tons of fun if you want to come join and chat about Nostr with some Nostr folks. I think we're streaming it right now. Tanel's streaming it, so we might get some questions from there today, but...
Yep. Cool. Well, we should have a mic here, so then you can just raise hands, and we can take those questions.
Testing. All right. So, quick question. With Twitter, you can subscribe, get your blue check. We all know that's going away with the Nostr users. How are developers getting funded for this, since it's a free and open protocol?
Yeah, there are different approaches.
So there's, like you said, there's different approaches. So Damus is experimenting with a value for value approach. So we decided not to do a subscription because we feel like sometimes that's just subsidizing other users. And I was like, hey, well, we have this new technology. Let's try something more value for value. So we have this feature where if you attach a Lightning wallet using this new thing called Nostr Wallet Connect, it allows you to do one-tap zaps within Damus. So you can just click a button and zap. So what it will do is you can configure it. It's optional, but you can configure it to send some proportion of that zap to Damus to support development. So every time you click that zap button, you're helping with the development and funding development. So I think that's kind of cool because it's value for value. If you're not zapping, then you don't have to do anything. Whereas subscription, if you're not using the app, it's not ideal. So we're trying that out. It's still kind of early days, but once we get more and more users using it, it might actually be a sustainable form of funding for Damus.
Yeah, we kind of have different approach. We took it from the Titoship previously, and we don't have it implemented yet. But in a Plebster, we're planning to do like ads in the timeline. That a lot of people hate ads, but we will share value for those ads. As many you see, we will give you few sats back that you can share with others on the Nostr. That's basically it. You will see the ads on a Plebster, and you get few sats every day for seeing those ads. They are not disturbing you. They are just like other posts on a timeline. Also, we are planning to do some subscription, but that's on the roadmap.
Yeah, the main thing is that first, it's optional, so you can turn on or turn off the ads in Plebster, and the whole Nostr ecosystem is optional, so you can go to Damus if you don't like the model, or you can go to other clients if you don't like the Damus model. Hey, there are options, or you can build your own client, and that's the beauty of Nostr. I saw that, there was a question.
Test. Okay. I tried to formulate that correctly. Can you talk about the notion of identity on Nostr? It's like, if you are a creator and you are posting about 3 topics or making content about 3 topics, maybe you need 3 accounts. Is it like one private key for each account, or can you create several accounts from one private key? This is one thing. And generally, the issue of identity, how you approach it on Nostr. And the second thing, if you think about Nostr as a protocol or platform that will grow over time, This is a lifetime value that you build as a creator. Maybe then this identity that you have is something valuable. And what is how do you protect the private key? Do you use hardware wallets? Is it a way to approach that, or what's your approach?
Okay, so there's two questions there, and they're really good. So the first one was about, if you're like if you post about a lot of stuff, like this is like me, like I love posting about like functional programming, I love talking about Bitcoin, I love talking about all this stuff, but a lot of people don't like to hear one of those topics, right? So I had this idea in Damas. Imagine if you could subscribe to only certain topics on a particular user. I think that'd be pretty cool. Or like what you're saying is maybe you would have derived keys from your main identity and you can just follow those individually. I think those two things will come because I think they're really good ideas, and I'm surprised that Twitter doesn't have that, to be honest. And in terms of keeping your private key safe, this is actually a very big issue right now, and there's two approaches. One is it's called like NSEC Bunker by Pablo, which is basically a way to run your own server that does all the signing for you, and then your client simply just asks that server to sign stuff. That's kind of technical and it's kind of complicated. There's another approach where you can use delegation, where you create a key that when you use that key, it looks up your main identity whenever you're creating events with that key. So that's something that Damas might eventually add. It's kind of controversial, but there's a bunch of approaches that you'll start to see in clients coming soon.
Also, regarding the first question, something that we are playing with the fiat Jeff in our mind is the realize that only around some content. For example, I would love to connect to the relay that's only around Bitcoin. But it's kind of hard to like make sure that there is only content around Bitcoin. But that's something that we are playing in our mind with fiat Jeff, and we would love to do it in the future. That you just choose your content based on the relays. But let's see if we're gonna implement it.
And I would just add that I'm thinking about Nostr as like a Bitcoin in 2010, 2011. It's like super early. And back then, when you want to like securely store your Bitcoin, you have to have like a clean notebook with Linux installation, clean printer, and it was super complex. And I think Nostr will progress, and with it will progress how to secure your account and all the other things around it. You can just be super early to Nostr right now, and all of these guys are hardworking, and they will be working on how to make Nostr more user-friendly and how to bring Nostr to masses. Yeah, I see some hands. Where are the mic? Yeah, okay.
Hi folks, Avi Burra, host of Plebchain Radio, which is a Nostr Nest, Fridays at 6:30 p.m. Eastern, UTC-4. Just a question around a truly decentralized alternative to something like Twitter Spaces, right, where there is no single point of failure, where the audio is hosted, and maybe more broadly, what are your thoughts on a YouTube alternative in a truly decentralized Nostr sense?
So, what was the question? It was about it was to decentralize Twitter Spaces.
What are your thoughts on having a truly decentralized alternative to Twitter Spaces, and then more broadly to YouTube as well?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, media is difficult because it's it's high bandwidth, and if you're trying to do that in a decentralized way, it's a little bit more difficult. The main decentralized way to get media out in the past has been BitTorrent, and it works decently, but it's not really real time. In terms of Spaces, I had this idea of just maybe throwing up, there's like this technology called Mumble, maybe just spin up like this little Mumble server, and then people can connect to it, and these things can come up and down, these little servers that pop up. And that might be kind of a fun Nostr way to do media Spaces like servers. But you still need pretty beefy servers to do that. It's hard to do that, just run it off your client or something. So yeah, it's definitely a tricky issue.
I also saw that somebody on a Nostr space is playing with the hole punch to implement that. I would love to see that also.
Yeah, it's just when you get peer-to-peer, when you're sending lots of media peer-to-peer, it can get really difficult. So.
Yeah, it might work for like real-time audio and video, but for like a YouTube-style archive, it will be quite difficult. We will see. Of course, the text base is the easiest one because of the bandwidth. Yeah. Yeah.
Hello. Yeah, here.
Okay. Hi, Rockstar.
Hey, man. So we talked about Nostr 2 days ago. Have you registered for Nostrasia? You and Dominik, you're not registered?
We are in.
Okay, can we do a show of hands of who is registered for Nostrasia here?
Sure. So
Yeah.
there will be a big Nostr event in Tokyo and Hong Kong, November.
Yeah, November, is it 3rd or 2nd?
First.
Yeah.
Yes.
With Jack Dorsey. Jack Dorsey is paying for the event. Tickets are free. It will be amazing. We've been to Costa Rica Nostr event before. So if you like Nostr, if you can afford it, you should come to Tokyo and Hong Kong, and it will be really great.
One thing that I want to add to that is the Nostr right now, and I hope in the future, feels like a family. We were talking yesterday about that you will feel welcome for a long time on a Nostr. Like every Nostrich out here is really welcomed, and will love to talk with you about Nostr. So don't fear about like joining Nostrica like conference, because everybody will welcome you there.
Yeah, if you're comparing like Bitcoin Twitter to Nostr, it's such a different experience because like I felt like on Bitcoin Twitter, the algorithm is constantly putting up like angry stuff all the time. Or on Nostr, there's no algorithm and everyone's just like hanging out and chilling and sending stats to each other. It's so much fun, and you find at these conferences it's just so chill. And I think it's a part of that aspect of, you know, it's not as serious as Bitcoin, but we have Bitcoin on the side and we send it to each other, so it's fun. I don't know.
Yeah, and also if you want to like feel how to be at the beginning something new, join Nostr right now because it's growing quickly.
Yeah, like imagine if you were able to get in like the early days of Bitcoin. That's what it feels like right now. So if you miss that as a Bitcoiner and you kind of want to feel like what it's like to be a part of something that's just starting, it's a great time to get into it.
Yeah.
Guys, I have a question. Hey.
Hello.
Marce here. So at the Nostr report, we love doing long format, but with Habla.news, we don't have that much reach. So I was wondering if you guys, Plebster or Damas, are trying to implement NIP23 anytime soon.
Yeah, so it's like half done. I have a branch that implements long form. So if anyone doesn't know, long form is basically the Substack killer, I think. So a Substack, it's decentralized. You can host your articles and blog posts and stuff like that. So Nostr is doing that. So instead of microblogging, like small text, we have a new note kind called Longform, and it has like full markdown support, and it looks beautiful. So clients are starting to implement this. There's a website called Habla, Habla.news, where you can create these posts. And then once you create them on that website, they'll eventually show up in Damas, which will be really cool. So you can follow, it'll show up in your main feed in Damas. You can see, oh, my friend made a blog post, and you can zap it and repost it. So it's gonna be a lot of fun.
Yeah, we have that on the roadmap too. So
yeah, we have pretty long roadmap, but it will come. Yeah.
What about long format videos?
Well, we are handling them, I would say, quite okay, but there is always space for improvement. Yeah.
Yeah, on the mobile phones, it's kind of hard to like show the long posts in a good way, because if it's like 3 screens long or even more, it's kind of hard like to keep user engaged in that post. But we will eventually figure out.
Yeah, long form video like reels and stuff. That's I think it's mostly supported in Damas. I just need to add better controls for it and stuff. So you'll notice Damas is very heavily inspired by Instagram. So it's kind of weird when you're joining if you're used to it from Twitter, because it'll actually make images, you know, wide width, and maybe it'll have stories eventually. Stories are very controversial. When I suggested stories in Damas, they're like, oh God, stories. Why would you add that to a Twitter client? But you know, we're building something new. Let's experiment with things, and that's what I feel like Damas represents. It's just I'm always just experimenting with new ideas, and why just create a copy of Twitter? Let's try to do something cool. Let's do something new. So.
And before I give the mic to someone else, if you guys do want to register for Nostrasia, come look for me. I have a QR code so you can register easily. And if you can make it to Nostrasia at Bitcoin Park in Nashville, they'll be having Nosterville the week after. I don't know the dates, but yes.
I would love to see Nostr conference in Europe also for the next time.
Yeah, tell Jack.
Maybe.
Yeah, so we have time for one quick question, the last one. So, yeah, there were some guys there, so.
The derived keys that you will were talking about, would that basically be a way to recycle identities? So let's say I, for some reason, screwed up my private key. I put that it's compromised, and I could basically now use that methodology to spin up a new identity without losing my stuff?
That's really hard to do on right now. I bet the best you can kind of do right now is, it doesn't exist, but you should be able to revoke your key that says this is no longer usable. We don't even have that yet, but that would be the best you can do. I don't think we have a way to, I mean, maybe, yeah, for maybe delegation, you can just like nuke that delegated key and then spin up a new delegated key. That's kind of the point of delegated keys. But yeah, so in the context of NIT27 with delegation, you can do that. But if it's just your root key, you're kind of screwed. Yeah.
Well, thank you guys very much. Will, Dominik, we would love to take a photo for our Nostr. So if we can just have a selfie there and you can just wave a bit, it would be great. And yeah, that's probably it. But let's take a photo and show Nostr that we in Czech Republic are big fans. Cool.